Hey there, Breakfast Clubbers! I'm your host, Kelly Guentner, and this is another week's episode of Back Issue Breakfast Club. And this show is part of the Back of the Cereal Box podcast network. This week, we are reviewing Jeff Lemire's Hawkeye. Alright, so if you have not been living under a rock, you've probably seen the Hawkeye trailer by now. It pretty much broke the internet, and I'm quite happy. And my girl Kate Bishop is getting all the love she finally deserves. Her first appearance in Young Avengers has been selling out. So I'm going to give you all, for the uninitiated, a little bit of a Kate Bishop timeline. So Kate Bishop shows up in Young Avengers when Clint Barton is presumed dead. I believe at the time he's actually back from the dead acting as Ronin, but nobody knows this at the time. So Kate Bishop shows up and takes the name Hawkeye, along with some other young upcoming heroes. And she and these other heroes on this Young Avengers team are mentored by Jessica Jones, which is very fun. And eventually she does meet the first Hawkeye, and they become best buds. And that dovetails into Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, which I will review eventually, but highly recommend it. It's a fantastic series. At some point there is a Young Avengers Volume 2. I believe that's after Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. And then my very first episode, there's the standalone Kate Bishop's Hawkeye private investigator. But before that, we get this little Jeff Lemire. It's kind of a mini-series. This is part of Marvel's all new, all different initiative, if I remember correctly. It follows up the Matt Fraction Hawkeye. However, if you haven't read anything that came before, it does kind of catch you up in the first few pages, so you could pick this up even if you're new to comics. I think you'd enjoy it more if you read the stuff that comes before. This story really leans heavily on the friendship between the two Hawkeyes, which I absolutely love. Their dynamic is just wonderful. It's really important to both characters' development. It really drives home the point that Clint Barton, at this point in his life, has screwed up all of his romantic relationships, and he's just kind of aimless. He was rich for a little while, and his brother Barney, who he has a very interesting relationship with, came into his life and stole his money and scampered off to a deserted island to settle down with a wife and 2 kids. Barney does make an appearance in this book, and that's also really interesting. So if you are not acquainted with Barney, this is also a good book to get kind of an overview of that fun sibling relationship dynamic, because it's really multi-layered. It's fascinating. So the nice thing this book does is it's got 3 timelines going on at once. Kind of. It's jumping between the present, potential future, and then later in the book it starts delving into Kate's past, which is really interesting. And what I really like about the book is that it uses 3 different art styles to communicate this. And so the story, just to give you an overview of the story before I get too much into the art styles, the story starts out with Kate and Clint are having a fight because they had been on a mission where they saved some inhuman children and they turned them over to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Kate feels like they basically abandoned these children. The story kind of follows what could happen to these children in the future, and also follows what would happen if Kate and Clint didn't make up after this fight. So, and you kind of see how important they are to each other. So what I really like is that you have the present artwork is real. It's kind of the or the artwork that you see in the Fraction Hawkeye kind of fun mirroring of Clint and Kate, showing how it just really shows them both kind of lounging and Clint trying to call Kate, Kate ignoring his calls, but it shows how similar they are and just their body language even is mirroring each other, which I just love how expressive this artwork is. Book that it's very Hawkeye artwork. It's what I really associated with it. And now the future artwork, it's 20 or 30 years into the future. Clint's basically retired. He doesn't talk to anyone. He's kind of just withdrawn. Kate is the Hawkeye. She's also kind of spun it into a whole corporation, and she's big in with S.H.I.E.L.D. And as a standalone, I wouldn't be a huge fan of the artwork, but it really works because it's a little looser, a little sketchier, and it really communicates that the future that it's showing is not fully written yet. It's not set in stone. And I love that the artwork really communicates this. So the present artwork is very clearly grounded, set in the present. And then we get to our past artwork, and then we have the past artwork that delves into Kate's history, which is really illuminating for her character, and it shows exactly why she did grow up to become a Hawkeye. This past artwork is a little bit watercolored. It's got a little bit of purpley tint, of course, and it just really shows how the present is not sketchy, it's not hastily drawn, it is set in stone, but it's also, you kind of view it through this hazy watercolor of memory because it's the past. And so the story really does a lot of excellent mirroring of the two characters, showing how they're similar, how they're different, how they complete each other, how their friendship just benefits each character and moves each character forward, and it's just really well done. It's a really character-driven story while also having some nice action pieces. So I really enjoyed it. I read a lot of stories that you have to get several graphic novels to continue them, and I do love those stories, but it's also nice to kind of pick up a story and at the end of reading it, you feel like, okay, I've read a complete story. You know that you can still follow the characters to other books, but you also feel satisfied, like the story had a beginning, middle, and end. And so if you're a fan of Hawkeye, highly recommend this. Jeff Lemire definitely did both characters justice. Ramone Perez was the artist and just absolutely did a fantastic job. Like I said, he really did a good job of juggling those three timelines and using the art to communicate it really well. So definitely this is a good read ahead of time if you're excited about the Hawkeye show like I am. Clearly, I've been hyped for this show since they announced it. I would suggest reading this. It gives you a little insight into the comic verse of Hawkeyes. So, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Hawkeye story if you read Hawkeye in the comics? If not, are you hyped for the show? Otherwise, what's your favorite MCU offering this year? We have had an embarrassment of riches, and I'm loving it. As a comic fan, I am loving this year. Thank you, MCU. Thank you, Disney Plus. You've been giving with both hands, and it's been excellent. So, do you have a favorite show or movie that you have seen this year? Tell me about it. It does not have to be limited to the MCU. Give me the DC love, give me the indie love, and tell me what else you're reading, even if it's not Marvel. Y'all know I love DC, and I love the indies, so I want to hear from you. If you like this video, hit that like button, share it with 100 or 200 of your closest friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. It does help us. And if you really, really like the video, or even if you don't and you want me to improve, make sure you do buymeacoffee.com/cerealboxpod, and make sure you let Johnny know that you want to donate directly to this show or to any of the shows in our network. So thank you for watching, and I hope you